This is Saturn Girl. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Comment below because I want to know what you think and it helps me out with the algorithm. Also do me a favor and click the bell when you subscribe so that you get notified when my new videos drop. And my videos are the best. Wow. So what's cracking? It's that time again. We're approaching the end of another month. We're pushing deeper into 2024. In fact, I think we're getting balls deep. Anyway, it's time to give you vultures what you want. You all just want to devour me, don't you? To pick my bones clean and to choke down my astrological meat. That sounds bad, I think. Anyway, it's time for your horoscopes for the month of February. Now, pardon me because I'm not feeling well. Obviously, you can hear in my voice. And I've had the whole entourage of planets going through my 12th house, Mercury, Mars, Venus. And I always get depressed and just isolated during this time, Anyway, but we have a lot going on, so no time for me to wallow because everything's going into Aquarius, which is my first house, right? So if you haven't watched my previous video on the February transits, you need to go back and watch that so that you have the context and understanding for these horoscopes, okay? Now we're going to focus on just 3 major transits for your horoscopes, okay? And let's look at the fun chart, shall we? Excuse me. I told you I'm not feeling well, babies. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so here's today, the 29th of January, when I'm filming this, which is why I had to do this, even though I'm not feeling well. It's like, I gotta get it done. It's almost February. So anyway, look at here. We see Mercury approaching Aquarius. And then on the 4th, boom, he dives right in, doesn't he? Goes into Aquarius. And then on the 12th, right? Let's fast forward a little bit. On the 12th, boom! Mars goes into Aquarius. Yes. Well, and then look at my mama Venus hovering on the edge. So I walk it on by. Venus steps to the edge. Gosh, I look terrible, don't I? Ugh. Whatever. It's all good. I'm cute even when I'm not feeling well. So, anyway, look, Venus dips into Aquarius, and they all conjoin my ascendant. So I hope in February, I feel a lot more lively. But see what happens then. A few days later, on the 22nd, Venus conjoins Mars and overtakes him and enters what's called malefic enclosure. Okay? So, now of course, it's no good looking at each of these transits in isolation. And don't worry, I'll explain more of malefic enclosure in a little bit. But we can't look at these in isolation. Rather, they need to be examined together as part of a living whole, because together they tell a fluid, nuanced, and rich narrative that can be quite instructive to us if we pay attention. So anyway, number 1, Mercury. Mercury's the mind, isn't he? And the whole sign house he enters for you indicates where your attention shifts to, where it goes. He's also about messages and news and media. And he tells us what sort of things we're going to be hearing about. Now, what about Mars? Mars is our aggression and our drive. He tells us, right, what we're pursuing. He also represents where we're going to have conflicts and competitions, in what area of our life, and with what people. And then Venus is how we relate to others. And she's our aesthetic. And the house that she enters for us tells us how we're going to connect and what we're going to find pleasurable or seek as part of our enjoyment. Now, the underlying narrative here that connects all of these is that Mercury enters and shifts your attention in a new direction, right? And this focus stirs up, excuse me, right? Mercury shifts our attention, but then Mars comes next, building up passion and zeal, yes, towards that new area of life that's being emphasized or focused upon. And then he stirs up conflicts or fights with people indicated by that house, right? And we'll get into the thick of that. We can't, get what we want, though, or what we desire without relating to people. So Venus enters in and tells us how interactions are going to carry on and what we desire. But you see, she gets terribly frustrated as she enters what's called malefic enclosure. You see, it's almost like as she conjoins Mars, she climbs on top of him. She finishes her deed and, she moves on like my mama does. But Mars gets jealous, right? And he coaxes Saturn to help him make sure that Venus can't have any fun with anyone else. Right? So she sort of has to fly under the radar while she's wedged in between these two characters in order to avoid Mars's jealous ass. Right? So she won't be able to do too much. Pleasure connecting, right, with people and enjoying yourself will take more effort. But please don't fret, because eventually Venus will slip past Saturn into her sign of exaltation later in March. Okay? But what malefic enclosure is, astrologically, is when a planet gets wedged in between Mars and Saturn, the two malefics. And it basically makes them unable to express their natural qualities, you see. So we'll see the natural diplomatic and graceful qualities of Venus, get turned upside down. This is a story all about how something in my life got turned upside down. It's the Fresh Prince. I don't remember the lyrics. Anyway, remember that we always do these horoscopes for each rising sign. So you'll get the most out of them if you know your rising sign, right? So if you don't have access to your birth certificate or your exact time of birth, then you could watch for your sun sign. It's not as, doesn't hold as much weight in your life. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Excuse me for being, under the weather. So anyway, why don't we start off with Aries Rising? Aries Rising. Let's go ahead. Where's my Aries? Where's my Aries? There you are, my Aries people. So for Aries Rising, this means Aquarius is your 11th house, right? And the whole entourage is entering Aquarius. 11th house is hopes and friends. So the mind turns from self-promotion to making connections, doesn't it? You may suddenly be more mindful of popularity or your influence. It will feel like you have an audience, whether or not you actually do. You little performer, you. When Mars charges in, though, he often stirs up conflicts with friends. You may act too proud, make some stupid gaffe, or lose your temper and find yourself cut off from people. Venus coming in, though, makes us, regret some of our harsh words or our actions. But watch out, because when she's enclosed, she can't really reconcile with people normally as she does. She turns to sour grapes, doesn't she? She gets resentful, right? She gets a bad attitude and can cause even more of a mess if she's not aware of herself. The thing here, though, is to act with integrity. And that means doing the right thing, regardless of who's watching, because you know it's the right thing to do. So you need other people's help to succeed. That doesn't mean you don't stand up for yourself, but it does mean don't alienate yourself, right? Well, anyway, what about our Taurus rising friends? Let's go to Taurus. So for our Taurus rising friends, this means Aquarius is in your 10th house, right? Of life direction. So the mind is turned from the inside to the outside, right? Turned inside out. From the self-reflection of the 9th house to the self-promotion of the 10th house. This is where we strategize for success, whether it's working on resumes or considering new opportunities. But Mars coming in makes conflict in our work life, particularly with authority figures like bosses. Right? Those conflicts can really hurt our chances about getting new opportunities. So we have to be mindful of burning bridges and harming our reputations, which also happens with Mars in the 10th house. Excuse me. Venus coming in, though, gives a sense of diplomacy. And she finds that she can make amends with people. Well, that is until she gets enclosed. Then she starts talking shizzle, gossiping, spreading rumors. But her little passive-aggressive displays can backfire just as bad and cause even more problems. The trick here is not to take things too personally. It's easier said than done, of course, right? You may have had to endure an embarrassing moment, right? Maybe you lost some face, but there's nothing you can do about it now. And it won't change what people think about you anyway. All you can do is do your best to act as if everyone was going to read about it on the front page of the New York Times, right? But does anyone actually remember the New York Times? I don't think so. What about our Gemini Rising friends? Let's go to Gemini Rising. This puts Aquarius in your 9th house of your beliefs. So the mind has turned from death in the 8th house to the afterlife in the 9th house, right? I'm kind of kidding, a little bit. But this is when your attention begins to dwell on the bigger questions once again. You will find yourself more philosophically or spiritually inclined. But when Mars enters in, you will likely get to be a bit of a fanatic and get quite defensive about your beliefs, whether it's spirituality or politics or all the above. Excuse me. Venus entering in, though, helps us to see other points of view, doesn't she? And to see the bigger context in which all these sort of philosophies connect and intersect, and how some of them are a reaction or a response to societal conditions. But when she's enclosed by malefics, you will likely become resentful and dismissive of other points of view, sort of snidely trashing them behind other people's backs. The lesson here, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well. The lesson here is to see the context and understand why people may think the way they do. Of course, if someone's beliefs entail hurting vulnerable people or historically oppressed minorities, then you have a duty to trash them, in my opinion. We don't accept harmful points of view because they cause harm. Anyway. Or rather, we don't have to. But let's move on to our Cancer Rising friends. Oops. It's Cancer Rising. Oh, excuse me. Here we go, Cancer Rising. This means Aquarius is your 8th house of death and debt. So the mind has turned from your relationships to your mortality, right? Till death do us part. Yeah, no. Not doing that again. Anyway, I'm kind of kidding, but you'll be more focused on your financial situation. And you'll probably start dwelling on conflicts that you've had in the past. And consider making amends. You see, the 8th house often entails forgiveness. Mars entering in, though, encourages you to want to spend money that you don't have. Excessively using that credit card. I always think about swiping it till it melts, but who swipes their credit card anymore? It's just like, bop, 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 bop. Oh, it'll come in the mail later. you know? Or maybe you have issues with tax season. You could also find yourself getting angry about a past situation, like, why did I let that happen? You know? Venus coming in next, though, helps us to reconcile both our balance sheet and with the people we're mad at. But when she's enclosed, she does half-hearted reconciliations, right? Like, I'm sorry, but, or, well, I only said that because you said this, right? Or, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's not how I feel. You know, like, I understand you feel that way, but I just think it's stupid without saying it directly. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. There's resentment behind the apology. The trick here, though, is to anticipate, right? To anticipate your desire to spend on the one hand, your potential losses on the other, and then your anger, yes? That way you can be ready to make better decisions rather than just reacting as Mars loves to do. So just know that, hey, I'm going to be not a nice person around this time, so I need to take extra care and extra attention to watch my mouth. Get a mirror so you can watch your mouth. What about our Leo Rising friends? Let's go to Leo Rising. Excuse me. This means Aquarius is your 7th house of partnerships. So your mind has turned from your obligations to people, right, to your relationships with them. You suddenly start to consider your relationship status and what needs to change, right? This is typically romantic relationships. Mars entering into this house, though, will stir up conflicts in romantic relationships, and you may be feeling agitated with a partner or vice versa. Remember to think before you speak, because hurtful comments that you make right now could fester and lead to bigger conflicts later. Venus entering in helps to resolve these conflicts, but when she enters enclosure, these reconciliations or resolutions are often half-hearted and non-committal. Venus could also indicate someone else coming into your life. Since it's Venus, perhaps a woman or a trans woman. Lord knows I love my Leo Rising friends, right? A trans woman who could captivate your attention, which I often do. So anyway, the key here, though, is to walk away from your arguments so that you can be precise with your thoughts and your intentions, right? So that you can express them to your partner. It would also do you good to lighten up a bit. Let go. Enjoy new people. But what about our Virgo Rising friends? So for Virgo Rising, this puts Aquarius in your 6th house of obligations. So your mind has turned from lust to lists. How exciting! Yeah, exciting. You suddenly find yourself thinking of all the things that you need to do and begin to feel quite compelled to do them. In fact, you'll have to write them all down. And then when Mars comes in, then you'll notice that you get the drive to actually cross these things off the list, right? Mars gives us, right, the energy to get things done. But it could also feel quite tedious, and you may risk burnout because Mars pushes us. Now, Venus coming in, though, helps us to slow down and prioritize our tasks so that we still find time for rest and enjoyment. But when she's in enclosure, rest is not, well, it's not rest, is it? Because you keep dwelling on lingering things, or perhaps you start to get lazy and find it very hard to get going again. Alternatively, with all this, you could also get a new pet, or an animal comes into your life. No, I mean, I'm kind of an animal, but excuse me. The trick here, though, is to budget your time And only pick so many tasks per day. Be kind with yourself, yes? And find things that will help you to be present with your downtime and actually enjoy it rather than spending time just worrying. Well, anyway. What about our Libra Rising friends? This is like Amber. Amber is Libra Rising, my helper. Libra Rising for Amber. Well, this puts Aquarius in your 5th house. Good for you. That's fun and children. Wonderful. So the mind is turning from the personal space to the personal time. You've probably felt like you didn't have any time for yourself, and now your attention is shifting to things that you want to do. Mars following after those stirs up conflicts with our children, and they become a pain, sometimes literally. Even though we love them, of course, we love them so much. But you know how it is. We also get amorous and lustful, at least I do. Or you may find yourself getting pouty and selfish about enjoying yourself, which, you probably need to. Now, Venus coming in helps us to find balance, and we get to release some of our demons. A lot of my demons live in my various fluids, if you will. But Venus enclosed makes having fun tedious. And it's like a mixed bag. Romantic encounters or pleasurable outings will tend to have something go wrong, right? It's not like they're all bad, but they get tainted in some way. Like maybe you're at a sporting event and you're in line at the concession stand, and some Karen turns around and screams at you for no reason. It's still a great game, or you enjoy yourself, but it's like, oh, that really sucked, didn't it? Someone has to sour your good time. Well, the trick here is to let go of expectations as much as we can and not really stress on having a good time. Just let things sort of unfold organically. Stuff goes bad sometimes, like organic produce, Try to live in the moment and not be too upset when things don't go according to plan, because that's part of the plan. Anyway. What about our Scorpio Rising friends? So for Scorpio Rising, Aquarius is what? Your 4th house. The 4th house of home and private life. So the mind is turning from expression to contemplation. Your mind may have been a buzz, right? Buzz, buzz, churning out word salad. And now you're chewing on that salad, aren't you? Like a cow. Chewing cud. I'm a Taurus Mercury, so I think of, cows chewing cud as they mull things over. But Mars entering in, though, brings a lot of agitation around the home. We sort of become tyrannical about our space and our privacy. Sometimes things break. Or we break them, right? Don't be a Kyle. Keep your fist out of the wall, please. It's better used in other places. Anyway. We also tend to get in fights with pushy parents, roommates, or landlords. Excuse me, so watch out for those sort of things. Now, but Venus following in after brings harmony to our home situation, and we feel the need to decorate it or make it beautiful and reflective of how we feel inside. But when she gets enclosed, nothing feels quite right, and everything is just, at the very least, dissatisfying. No amount of leveling can make that picture frame just right. The key, though, is to hold to your boundaries. You will need to designate time where everyone needs to leave you alone so that you can recharge your batteries. Scorpios sort of need that anyway, don't they? You will want to push yourself when you're already stressed out, and that doesn't really help anybody, right? You're going to be tired, and you need to take time out to recharge, as I said earlier. Anyway, I need some recharge time right now. I'm like, Anyway. Oops, did I go too far? We need to go to our Sagittarius rising, friends. Our Sagittarius. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So for Sagittarius, this puts Aquarius in your third house of siblings, community, and communication. So your mind is turning from coins to content. Yeah? You will likely see yourself getting loads of ideas about things you want to say or express. You'll be motivated to learn new things. Probably be interested in news or world affairs. There's a lot going on right now, and you might feel the need to talk about them. Now, Mars entering in here often sparks conflicts with siblings or extended family. You will also be prone to road rage. I see that so often. Trying to push yourself and rush around, finishing all sorts of errands. Yeah. Maybe you have a proclivity to use harsh words at the moment. But Venus following after helps to smooth over conflicts and make us more eloquent. Eloquent, poetic, and tactful. I'm not tactful, I'm tactical. Anyway. But when she's enclosed, she gets passive-aggressive. She's like Mean Girls, right? She suddenly starts saying things that would be hurtful if they weren't so stupid. The key here is not to get carried away by fleeting feelings and letting little interactions change your overall opinions of people. If you give in to the impulse to be a little bully, it's going to hurt you later. Anyway, what about our Capricorn rising, friends? So for Capricorn rising, this puts Aquarius in your second house. Of what? Finances. So you got your mind on your money and your money on your mind. Right? Rolling down the street, smoke. Anyway. I always sing Snoop Dogg when I think of Mercury in the second house. With my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Anyway. You start thinking about how to be more efficient with your resources and perhaps the things that you need to buy or just want to buy. But watch out, because Mars coming into this house gives us the drive to overspend, and we end up hurting ourselves in the long run. We make impulsive decisions and usually regret them later. Venus following after, though, is a bit like Madonna, right? I'm living in a material world. I am a material girl. She can bring luck with money, but when she's enclosed, she lets her desire for nice things sort of run amok. She falls back into the destructive Martian spending habit, right? Because Mars is sort of instigating her. You know you want it. You know you want this. The key here, though, is to anticipate this and have a set budget for February and March. Just know that spending beyond those limits will make you even more upset later. So, mind your stuff. Well, now let's go to Aquarius Rising. Aquarius Rising. This is me and my people. And Aquarius is our first house of self. So our minds are turning from self-destruction to self-aggrandizement, which is my default setting. And I really enjoy that setting. So it's like, yay, I get to be a bitch again. You know, I guess when I feel better. We've been reflective and probably a bit depressed. Yes, I just said I was. But now, it's time to feel like the smartest people in the room again, as we typically do. Room? What am I saying? The world! Duh. Mars entering in, though, adds to our confidence. After we felt a bit of self-loathing, we get invigorated and charged up. But be careful, because we'll be prone to accidents. So we have to slow down and pay attention to what we're doing. Because we'll be rushing all around. You know, we'll get bumped and scraped and hit. So be careful. Anyway, Venus coming in, though, makes us a lot more charming. We feel beautiful and sexy. But when she's enclosed, she gets a bit arrogant. There's a tendency to act like we're the popular girl in high school. But how we treat people affects how we get treated later. So we need to temper that sort of sense of self-importance. Although I'm really looking forward to it, especially with romantic things. Anyway, we should be prouder of ourselves and feel like a little goddess, as I will, but not at the expense of others. The key is to remember that when Venus's confidence is tempered with love, then she delights in the confidence and the success of other people. And that's important to realize. Now, what about our Pisces Rising friends? Yay, Pisces Rising. It's my little brother. So this means this means Aquarius is your 12th house, right? Of self-destruction and isolation. So the mind is now what? In a mood, like mine has been. We tend to get a little depressed, want to be left alone, and we reflect on what's not going right in our lives. Mars coming in, though, makes us prickly, resentful, and encourages self-destructive behaviors and habits. We start to get up mentality and can justify making bad decisions, right? Just because we're like, whatever, screw it. Venus following after, though, helps us consider why we feel the way we do and encourages us to take some time out to heal, right, from stressful situations. It's a great time to seek help or therapy for your mental health. But when Venus is enclosed, she gets deceptive and resentful. She deceives herself, which is the worst kind of deception, by starting to justify her destructive behavior. It's like, well, she did this to me, so whatever, I can just screw it. Why do I care? The key here, though, is to remember that the issue has nothing to do with other people, right? But it's your relationship to yourself. We gain confidence by doing things and accomplishing things, achieving real results, not just magical thinking. Oh, I would love to do this, getting caught in imagination. Don't let your own hopelessness defeat you. You need to keep hope. Remember, that's something of the 11th house. So we need to have some sort of forward looking to keep our inner drive alive. Well, anyway, I hope these will be useful to you. Please like, subscribe, comment, click the bell, right? And check out my other videos too, because I do wonderful content. There's a lot of educational stuff, and I'm very cute and fun, obviously. Please help me continue making wonderful content by becoming a member of the channel. We just started that. Or donating through Super Thanks or my Patreon. All my information is below. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Excuse me. And I really appreciate your help too. I also do the best readings. It's science, right? It's measurable. Don't fact check that. But anyway, you can either book through my website, frankielynch.com, or once again, my contact information is below. And I look forward to hearing from you. But most importantly, I love you. You're beautiful. And have a spectacular, whatever it is you're having. Excuse me.